Sham shamala, steroids and juice. Anderson Silva, well, he hates to lose. Sham shamala, Michael Bisping. He lost his gum shield but still managed to win. Sham shamala, Shamrock and Gracie. Knees to the testicles, Cagney and Lacey. Sham shamala, ODA. Aldo and Verdum, well, they do want to play.
I'm a fat man. I'm a fat motherfucker. And my brother Nick, in jiu-jitsu. I'm fighting everybody here, man. Not getting paid now. I'm getting paid. You're around your belt. Don't give a fuck, man. Triathlon jiu-jitsu. Kill or be killed. Just steroids, man. Pettis. Fucking steroids. Jiu-jitsu.
There you have it. That's the latest news in this week's UFC. But what the fuck is wrong with Herb Dean? Why can't Herb Dean referee anymore? 2009. That's the last time Herb Dean refereed a fight properly. Herb Dean needs to cut his hair. Steve Mazzagatti is growing his hair long to look like Herb Dean. Steve Mazzagatti shaved his moustache. He's getting dreadlocks so he can look like Herb Dean. Herb Dean needs to stop looking like Steve Mazzagatti, cut his hair, and get his shit together. But let's forget about all of that. Let's just forget it. Join me now, holding hands, standing in a big circle, to feel sorry for Frankie Edgar. I want a big collective sigh from everybody. Frankie has quit fighting and he has gone to work for Kit Kat because he cannot catch a break anywhere else. But let's talk about GSP instead. I want to talk about GSP. I'm going to break the news live, unfiltered, on MMA Forum. Forget about Ariel Shelwani, the PR agent for the UFC. He's not breaking this news. No, he's not. I am going to break it instead. GSP wants to come back for UFC 200. The belts don't matter anymore. The belts really don't matter. As Connor says, the weight of the check. This is what is important, the weight of the check. GSP has been sitting on the touchline. He's been thinking Conor McGregor is making cash money Hong Kong. And he wants some of that money. His bank account is dwindling. Sponsors are leaving. George can no longer afford the large-breasted women. And he does like large-breasted women. But as his checkbook runs out of checks, as his account loses zeros, George cannot have as many large-breasted women as he used to. So George wants money. He wants to come back at UFC 200, the biggest UFC ever. And he wants to fight Conor McGregor. No belt. Maybe a catchweight, maybe 155, maybe 170, but that's the fight that's going to headline UFC 200. They've been keeping it quiet. They've been keeping it very quiet. But that's what's going to happen. You heard it here first. That aside, we have an interesting UFC 196 coming up this weekend. Not the best card you've ever seen in your life, but a great main event, great co-main event, and a great final prelim match. And that's what I'm going to get to first, because everyone wants to win some money. I want to win some money. And I think we're all going to win some money. Jim Miller versus Diego Sanchez. Jim Miller has lost 3 out of 4 of his last fights. Who could have guessed it? Jim Miller is a warrior. Jim Miller has skills. But Michael Chiesa, Beneil Dariush, and Donald Cerrone have beaten him. And he may need to win this fight to stay in the UFC. He's not ranked anymore. Jim Miller is not in the top 15 anymore. He's fighting Diego. Diego, who is now the dream, Sanchez. Probably a dream if he thinks he's going to win too many more fights in the UFC after the beatings he's taken and his robotic arms. But Diego fights to please the fans. That's one thing he does. So does Jim Miller. So these two are going to have a war. Diego's going to come out, but Diego's going to get taken down. Jim Miller's going to take his back. Diego's going to survive it once, maybe twice. But that's about it. And Jim Miller is going to finish this fight by rear naked choke. That is how this fight is going to end. That's what Jim Miller does. He's going to come out to Creedence Clearwater Revival, and he's going to win the fight by choke. And that's how the prelims are going to end. And then we're going to be psyched, because Diego will have landed a few punches before he gets taken down, but that's how it's going to end. And I bet Jim Miller's going to have some decent knobs, because Diego Sanchez hasn't been subbed in a long time, if ever. In fact, I don't think Diego Sanchez has ever been subbed. Diego Sanchez usually gets beaten by decision. But Jim Miller ain't going to stand and bang. So that doesn't work for Jim Miller, and sure as hell ain't going to work this time. So Jim Miller, rear naked choke. That's how it's going to go down, people. Another fight that's on the card is Eric Silva. Calls himself the Tiger. But since he's not in the juice anymore, he's more of a kind of a fat pussycat. He comes in with a soft underbelly, and if you kick him there, he usually folds over and runs away. Eric Silva, who used to be possibly the most scary up-and-coming fighter in the UFC, but because he had so many different types of testosterone in him, he could explode for the first round. But after he jacked his load, he'd get beaten in the second round. Famously, he had John Fitch and a locked-up rear-naked choke, and somehow John Fitch managed to stop breathing for about 30 seconds and get out of that choke. The legendary John Fitch. And then he got cut one fight later because Dana White didn't like him. Well, that's how it goes, John Fitch. Anyway, Eric Silva is fighting Nourdine Taleb from Canada. Kind of Moroccan-Canadian, if you ask me. But he got submitted by guillotine in his last fight by Warley Alves, another Brazilian. Chris Clements he beat. Jing Lang Lee he beat. Vic Grulich he beat. He won 3 in a row in the UFC, but they're all by decision. And he only beat the Chinese man Jing Lang Lee by split decision, and Jing Lang isn't the greatest fighter we've ever seen. And even though Eric Silva is pretty much done, he may not be beating any elite fighters, he is going to finish Nourdine Taleb, because he's going to knock him down, he's going to take his back, and it's going to be another rear naked choke after he busts his head with a couple of lefts and rights from top position. Nourdine's going to give up his neck, it's going to get taken, and he's going to get choked. Sad but true. Eric Silva, maybe he just needs to fight in Brazil. You can get a bit of juice into him. Tropicana, juicy bits, maybe the pink grapefruit, maybe the raspberry and apple. It's all good shit down there. But at least he'll win one fight in America. Las Vegas, Nevada. Anyway, on to the next one. Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes can fight. She beat Shayna Baszler with a leg kick. Have you ever seen such a thing? Mario Zamazaki stopped the fight. She got TKO'd with a leg kick. Shayna, the queen of spades, clubs. She ain't the queen of diamonds. That's for sure. So it's no big win. But Kat Zingano knocked out Amanda Nunes in the third round with elbows and punches. However, Amanda Nunes went crazy on her ass in the first round and nearly put away Kat Zingano. And she's pretty lethal. But she's also pumped full of steroids. Whether she can do that anymore, now that Jeff Nowitzki's in the UFC, who knows? But she did choke out Sarah McMahon, who's a good wrestler. Good wrestler, Sarah McMahon. But limited striking. And she got messed up by Amanda Nunes. She got fucked up. But Amanda Nunes is now fighting Valentina Shevchenko. UFC fans haven't seen a lot of Valentina Shevchenko. The Ukrainian with a Peruvian flag. Kind of a strange combination. But let me tell you this. Shevchenko is an absolute warrior. Warlord. Female warlord. Warrior. Crazy chick. 27 years old, 5'5", 135 pounds. Only one loss, which was a doctor's, I think it was a retirement of Dr. Savage to Liz Carmouche back in the day. 5 years ago when she was just a young whippersnapper. She's had one fight in the UFC where she fought Sarah Kaufman. It was a split decision, but she fought like a crazy wild bitch. And she's also going to fight like a crazy wild bitch. She's nicknamed the Bullet, but she's got technique. She's an outstanding Muay Thai fighter. An absolutely outstanding Muay Thai fighter. She has beaten Joanna Jędrzejczyk in Thai boxing. That is no small feat. But she's fighting Amanda Nunes, a psychotic fighter. So this is going to be a war. And possibly at the end of it, we're going to have a split decision with two women with their their ears will be hanging off, their noses will be on the side of their face, there's going to be a lot of blood. These bitches are going to throw down. I suggest betting on both of them for a decision win. And if the odds are good when they come out, you might win some cash. I'm betting Shevchenko has better striking, better movement. Nunes isn't going to be able to hit her so easy. Nunes is vicious, but she doesn't have the technique of Shevchenko. She's not as quick as Shevchenko. So I feel Shevchenko will win this fight by decision. I don't think she's got the powers Ngannou does to knock out Nunes, but she's got the skills, the wiliness, and the game to win this fight. And she will. Little covering bet on Nunes. Little cover. Little cover. But bet on Shevchenko. She's going to win the fight. And soon, she's going to be fighting for the title. And that is going to be some fight. 5 rounds against Joanna is going to be a war. And I look forward to that. Next. Latifi, the sledgehammer, fighting Gian Villante, Weidman's best buddy. 6'2", 205 pounds, 30 years old. Now, he knocked out Anthony Perosh. Anthony Perosh is 65 years old and has spent the last 7 years living in the pouch of a kangaroo. That's not a big victory. Tom Lawler knocked out Gian Villante. Tom Lawler is limited. His punches are telegraphed, and he can be taken down pretty easy. But he did knock out Corey Anderson. Corey Anderson can fight. Corey Anderson's an interesting wrestler. And he knocked him out in the 3rd round. So Villante's got a bit of game. But if he goes toe-to-toe and fights Iri Latifi, Latifi can catch him. The problem for Latifi is, even though he is a sledgehammer and he is a big, bad dude, and he can knock you out, if you give him a chance, he can knock you out, you can also knock him out. I mean, if you look at Latifi's fights, Mousasi beat him by decision quite easily. That was his first appearance in the UFC, and he did well. It was on short notice in Sweden after someone pulled out. Mousasi tooled him. Too easy for Mousasi. Mousasi did it. He was actually in another country when he beat him. That's how calm Mousasi was in that fight. But then, Cyril Diabate, who was a skilled guy. Latifi beat him, surprise. Chris Dempsey, certainly too taggable. But then Jan Blachowicz, the experienced Pole, knocked out Latifi. Kick to the body and then punches. And then Latifi was given a gimme against Hans Stringer, and then he knocked out Sean O'Connell after 30 seconds. Sean didn't even get into the fight. He got knocked out by Latifi. But now Latifi's stepping up. And every time Latifi steps up, he gets beat. And Gian Villante, he's got to start showing some game. He can't lose another fight, Villante. He can't lose. I know he won his last fight, but like I said, can't be fighting dudes who spent half their life in a kangaroo pouch. Losing against Tom Lawler, that's not acceptable, Villante. That's not acceptable. I know you're Weidman's buddy. Good for you, but you can't be losing to Tom Lawler if you want to be taken seriously. So, Villante, I think he's going to win this fight. I think he's going to knock out Latifi. Because I think Ray Longo's going to tell him to punch a fucking hole in Latifi's chest, and he's going to knock Latifi out. I feel sorry for Latifi. He's got a lot of travel to do, all the way from Sweden to Vegas. He's not getting paid very much. But this is going to be his chance, but he's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. Villante's going to do it. That's the money bet. Villante by KO. Fight is not going to go the distance. Latifi's going to come out swinging, and he's going to get caught, he's going to get rocked, and he's going to get finished. End of story. Holy fucking ham, the preacher's daughter. 10-0. 34 years old, 5'8", 135 pounds when she's off the juice. What is she when she's on the juice? I don't know. Did I say she was on the juice? No, I didn't say that. You did not hear that from me. Nope. No, sir. She just beat Ronda Rousey in her last fight. She kicked her in the head. She broke her jaw. Ronda Rousey doesn't know whether she's coming or going after that. Holly Holm knows where she's going. She's going to the store to buy some supplements from the steroid company she's sponsored by. Congratulations, Holly. Congratulations. You are a shining light for the sport, and the sponsors you are bringing in really just hold up the integrity of the UFC. Congratulations. You are a great girl. Preacher's daughter. And we all know that preachers are the best people in the world. They don't ask people for money to get into heaven. No, they don't. That's not what preachers do. Preachers are good, ethical people who aren't full of shit and slime. No, that's not who they are. She's fighting Cupcake Tate. Cupcake Tate is going to win this fight. Yes, she is. When you don't run into a counterpuncher at full speed like a headless chicken, then you can beat a counterpuncher. Miesha Tate is a smarter fighter than Ronda Rousey. She's a better coach fighter than Ronda Rousey. She may not be able to beat Ronda Rousey, but she can beat Holly Holm. Fully believe this is Cupcake's time to shine. She's going to show all the experience she's had in the last, how long has she been fighting? Decade in MMA? Almost a decade in MMA she's been fighting. Miesha Tate beat Jessica Eye in her last decision. It was a tough fight. Jessica Eye came out swinging. Miesha Tate got a bit surprised. She took a few digs. Sarah McMahon, Rin Nakal, Liz Carmouche, she beat them all. I think this time it's not going to be a decision win for Miesha Tate. I think she's going to sub Holly Holm. Holly's tough. Holly's fit. Holly's got help. Apart from Greg Jackson, she's got other secret help that comes out of a tablet jar. But it's not going to be good enough. I think Miesha Tate is going to take this to the ground. She's going to catch some kicks. She's going to take it to the ground. And she's going to sub Holly Holm. And we're going to have a new champion. Holly Holm is going to fade into obscurity. That is what is going to happen. Ronda Rousey's going to come back. UFC 200, Tate and Rousey. And that's going to be something very interesting. Ronda will be big favourite again. But Tate, remember, she went 3 rounds at Ronda before. And that was 2 years ago. And since then, she might have learned a few things. But I'm thinking too far ahead. Let's just think the UFC 196. Miesha Tate's going to sub Holly Holm in the 4th or the 5th round. That's what's going to happen. Nobody else is going to tell you that. Nobody. Holly's going to be big favourite, but Miesha is going to win. On to the main event. 18-10, Nick Diaz. Nate Diaz. Did I say Nick Diaz? No, I said Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz, 30 years old. He's fought a lot of times in the UFC. All the way back to Manny Gamburian. He beat him, beat the next guy, beat the next guy, beat the next guy, beat Josh the Dentist Neer 5 in a row. Then Gita beat him. Joe Stevenson beat him. He beat Melvin. He lost to Maynard. Beat a couple of bums. Well, Marcus Davis isn't a bum. He's a good fighter. Choked out Marcus Davis. Lost to Stungun. Lost to Rory. Beat Gomi. Beat Cerrone. Beat Miller. On a tear. Lost to Henderson in his title fight. Lost to Josh Thompson. Beat Gray Maynard. Got destroyed by Rafael dos Anjos, but came back in amazing shape and schooled Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson, who everyone thought was the next big thing, was shown up to be severely limited by a 1-2 Stockton. Well, it wasn't even a Stockton slap, the 1-2. The 1-2 is Nate's. He's one of the best boxers in the UFC. He's got good footwork for a boxer. And he hits nicely with great counter punches, great attacking 1-2. However, he leaves his lead leg out like Bubba in Forrest Gump. He sets off tripwires with his lead leg. It's going to get taken apart. It's going to get destroyed. Conor is going to hit him with the oblique kicks. He's going to push him back with spinning back kicks to the body. Nate's going to get tired. Nate's fit. People will say, oh, didn't have full camp, blah, 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 blah. The guy trains triathlon. He's fit. But when you get kicked in the body by spinning back kicks, that's when you start gassing. So Nate's going to gas 2-3 minutes into the first round. Then Conor's going to start landing straight left to the chest. He's going to further gas. Nate's going to get pushed back onto the cage. Then he's going to take a straight left. Then he's going to go down. Then he's going to take some punches to the head. Then the fight's going to stop. Everyone knows what's going to happen. If Nate can do anything different, it will be maybe the biggest upset in the history of the UFC. It's possible. Anything is possible. Step into that ring enough times and you can get subbed. You can get knocked out. But I won't be betting on that this time. I'll be betting on Conor for a first round win. Maybe Nate will get to the second round. Maybe he'll fight smart. Maybe half the fight, half the first round will be Nate taunting, backing around, acting a ham. That could be a good idea. He might get to the second round that way. But that's the only way he's getting to the second round. He's going to get KO'd. So UFC 196. It's going to be nice. It's going to make some cash. And then it's on to UFC 200. Good night and good luck.